The mercenaries' warning. The contract nobody wants. The neon lights of the Galactic Mercenary Guild flickered across Zephyr Blackthorn's scarred face as he stared at the holographic contract display. His 4 arms crossed in a gesture that every species in the guild recognized as absolute refusal. The tentacled broker across from him shifted nervously, purple skin darkening with frustration. 20 million credits, Blackthorn, the broker hissed through his translator device. Double your usual rate. Triple if you complete it within the standard galactic month. Zephyr's compound eyes didn't move from the display. The contract details were simple enough: infiltrate and neutralize a human military installation on the outer rim. Standard mercenary work. Except nothing about humans was standard anymore. Keep your credits, Nexus, Zephyr replied, his voice carrying the weight of countless battles. I don't fight humans. Nobody with half a brain cell does. The reputation that precedes them. Nexus's tentacles writhed in disbelief. They're just mammals. Barely 2 centuries into space travel. Your species has been conquering star systems for millennia. A low rumble echoed through Zephyr's chest, the equivalent of dark laughter. That's exactly the problem. We've been doing this for millennia. We fight by rules, by honor codes, by predictable patterns. Humans? He gestured at the display showing grainy footage of human soldiers. They don't even know the rules exist. The footage showed what humans called their special operations units, conducting a training exercise. They moved through a simulated alien city with fluid precision, weapons that seemed too large for their frames, and most disturbing of all, they were laughing. Actually laughing while practicing warfare. Look at their equipment, Zephyr continued, highlighting sections of the video. They develop weapons not because they need them, but because they think they look interesting. Their soldiers wear armor decorated with death symbols, not to intimidate enemies, but because they find it amusing. The entertainment warriors. Nexus pulled up additional files with his tentacles. Surely you're exaggerating their capabilities. Our intelligence suggests they model their military after their entertainment media. Exactly my point. Zephyr's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a roar. Do you understand what that means? They take their most violent fantasies and make them real. Their military doctrine is literally based on the question, wouldn't it be awesome if we could do this? The mercenary moved to another display, showing human military designations. They name their units things like Ghost Battalion and Shadow Strike Force. They call their weapons Widowmakers and Dragon's Breath. Their starships have names like Inevitable Justice and Righteous Fury. This isn't psychological warfare, this is how they actually think. The tactical nightmare. But they must have weaknesses, Nexus protested, his commission disappearing before his eyes. Every species has exploitable patterns. Zephyr's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. Oh, they have weaknesses. They're reckless, they improvise constantly, and they never follow standard military protocol. But here's the thing that keeps me awake during sleep cycles: they know these are weaknesses, and they've turned them into strengths. He pulled up combat footage from the recent Kepler conflict. Human soldiers were adapting their tactics in real time, using equipment in ways it was never designed for, and somehow succeeding against opponents who had superior firepower and numbers. Watch this, Zephyr pointed to a specific section. Their transport gets shot down, so what do? They turn the wreckage into a fortified position, use the engine core as an improvised weapon, and somehow manage to complete their mission. Any other species would have called for extraction or retreated. Humans? They call it an interesting challenge. The warning ignored. Nexus's skin had shifted to a sickly yellow color. Surely other mercenaries don't share your concerns? The smart ones do, Zephyr replied, gathering his equipment. The ones who don't are either dead or wish they were. I've seen what happens when you underestimate humans. They don't just defeat you, they study you, learn from you, and then improve their methods for next time. He paused at the exit, his multiple eyes reflecting the guild's neon lights. You want to know the real reason I won't fight humans? It's not because I'm afraid of losing. It's because I'm afraid of winning. Because if I somehow managed to kill one of their soldiers, the rest wouldn't just seek revenge, they'd analyze exactly how I did it, develop countermeasures, and ensure it never happens again. They turn every defeat into a lesson and every victory into a starting point for something better. The contract remains open. As Zephyr left the guild hall, Nexus stared at the contract display. 20 million credits for what should have been a simple operation. The holographic image of the human military installation seemed to mock him with its deceptively simple appearance. Around the guild hall, other mercenaries had overheard the conversation. One by one, they began canceling their own human-related contracts. The whispered conversations grew louder, spreading like a virus through the mercenary networks. By the end of the Galactic Day, something unprecedented had happened. For the first time in guild history, an entire species had been effectively blacklisted, not because they were too weak to fight, but because they were too dangerous to engage. The humans remained blissfully unaware of their new reputation. They continued their training exercises, their equipment modifications, and their terrible jokes over communication channels. They had no idea that across the galaxy, professional warriors were choosing unemployment over the nightmare of facing Earth's elite forces. The contract for the human installation remained open, glowing softly in the guild's database. 20 million credits that nobody would claim. The intelligence report. The discovery. General Marcus Stone stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's Central Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of incoming intelligence reports. The data streams flowed across multiple screens, each one more puzzling than the last. "General, you need to see this," Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Torres called from her station, her voice carrying a mixture of confusion and excitement. "We've been monitoring Alien Mercenary Guild communications for the past 6 months, and we've noticed something unusual." Stone approached her workstation, his heavy boots echoing in the quiet command center. "What kind of unusual, Torres?" "Well, sir," she pulled up a series of charts and graphs. "Contracts targeting human installations have dropped by 97% over the past year. But here's the strange part, the offered payments have increased by 400%. The pattern emerges." Stone's gray eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "So they're offering more money but getting fewer takers?" "Exactly, sir. And it's not just small-time mercenaries. The elite units, the ones who usually jump at high-paying contracts, they're all declining. We intercepted this communication from the Vorthan Strike Legion yesterday." The audio crackled through the speakers. Alien voices, translated by the computer, filled the command center. "Human contract? Are you insane? I'd rather fight a Crystal Hive Queen with a broken weapon than face those maniacs." Stone raised an eyebrow. "Crystal Hive Queens are classified as galactic-level threats. They're comparing us to those?" "It gets better, sir," Torres continued, pulling up more intercepts. "The Nexari Death Squads, the ones who took on the Andromedans during the Sector Wars, they've officially blacklisted all human-related contracts. Their commander called us unpredictable chaos entities. The reputation spreads." Commander Patricia Hayes joined them at the display, her arms crossed as she read the translated messages. "I've been analyzing these reports for weeks, General. The pattern is consistent across all major mercenary organizations. They're not refusing our contracts because they think we're weak." "Then why?" Stone asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Because they think we're terrifying," Hayes replied with a slight smile. "Listen to this one from the Caltharian Void Hunters. Humans don't fight wars, they fight entertainment. They modify their equipment for style points and somehow make it more effective. We can't predict their tactics because they don't follow any recognizable doctrine." Stone chuckled despite himself. "Style points?" Apparently, they're referring to Sergeant Williams' tendency to paint shark teeth on his powered armor. The aliens think it's some kind of psychological warfare technique. The tactical analysis. Torres brought up combat footage from recent skirmishes. The aliens have been studying our methods, sir. They've identified what they call human combat anomalies. Want to hear their list? Stone nodded, genuinely curious about how aliens perceive human warfare. First, Torres began, they don't understand why we make jokes during combat. They've recorded hundreds of hours of battlefield communications where soldiers are laughing while under fire. They think it's either a sign of mental instability or some kind of advanced psychological conditioning. Second, they can't comprehend our equipment modifications. Captain Rodriguez's team turned a standard recon drone into a mobile weapons platform using spare parts and duct tape. The aliens are convinced we have some kind of advanced nanotechnology that allows instant battlefield adaptation. Commander Hayes added, they're also baffled by our naming conventions. They think Operation Sledgehammer and Mission Broken Arrow are sophisticated code names with hidden meanings. They don't realize we just thought they sounded cool. The fear factor. But here's the most interesting part, Torres continued, highlighting a specific intelligence report. They're not just afraid of our combat effectiveness. They're afraid of our learning curve. This report from the Zephyrian Intelligence Network states, humans don't just adapt to new threats, they actively seek them out to test their capabilities. Stone read the report over her shoulder. They think we're deliberately putting ourselves in dangerous situations for training purposes? Well, sir, Hayes grinned, aren't we? Last month you authorized that live-fire exercise on the volcanic moon of Kepler, 442b specifically because it was challenging terrain. That was tactical preparation, Stone protested, though his tone suggested he knew Hayes had a point. The unintended consequences. The psychological impact is spreading beyond just mercenaries, Torres explained, bringing up a new set of data. Entire alien military academies are now teaching courses on human warfare patterns. The Galactic Defense Institute has classified our species as asymmetric threat entities. Stone stared at the classification report. They think we're a threat? We're barely a century into space travel. Not a technological threat, sir. A conceptual one. They're used to warfare with rules, with predictable patterns, with logical progression. We represent something they can't categorize or prepare for. Commander Hayes pulled up another intercepted message, human soldiers treat impossible odds as entertainment. They volunteer for suicide missions and somehow survive them. Their success rate in scenarios rated as certain death is statistically impossible. The strategic advantage. So what you're telling me, Stone said slowly, is that we've accidentally created a reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous warriors, not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer unpredictability? That's exactly what I'm saying, sir. The aliens have essentially defeated themselves through their own analysis. The more they study us, the more unpredictable we seem to them. Torres added, they're particularly disturbed by our tendency to turn everything into a competition. They've documented cases where human soldiers have wagered on who could complete missions faster, with style points awarded for creative solutions. And this terrifies them? Absolutely, sir. They can't understand a species that treats warfare as both a profession and a form of entertainment. They think we're either highly advanced psychological warriors or completely insane. The new reality. General Stone stepped back from the displays, processing the implications. So by being ourselves, improvising, adapting, and yes, having fun while doing our jobs, we've inadvertently created a galactic reputation as unstoppable warriors. It appears so, sir. The alien mercenary networks have essentially quarantined us. They're treating human space as a no-go zone for hostile operations. Stone smiled grimly. Well, I suppose there are worse reputations to have. Keep monitoring their communications, Torres. I want to know if this pattern continues. As the command staff dispersed, Stone remained at the display, watching the data flows from across the galaxy. Somewhere out there, alien warriors were choosing unemployment over the prospect of facing human soldiers. It was perhaps the most effective deterrent humanity had ever created, and they had done it completely by accident. The irony wasn't lost on him. In trying to be the best soldiers they could be, humans had become something the galaxy had never seen before: unpredictable, adaptive, and genuinely enthusiastic about the challenges of warfare. It was, he reflected, a very human way to accidentally conquer the galaxy's perception of warfare. The Alien Council's debate. The emergency session. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation hummed with tension as representatives from 47 species gathered for an emergency session. High Chancellor Vorthak, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns, called the assembly to order with a sound like distant thunder. Esteemed delegates, Vorthak's voice resonated through the translation matrices, we face an unprecedented situation. The human question has reached a critical point that demands immediate attention. Ambassador Quillix of the Manthari Empire, his insectoid features twitching with agitation, was the first to speak. High Chancellor, with respect, calling this a question understates the severity. We're dealing with a species that has fundamentally altered the balance of galactic warfare. The evidence presented. Director Zyrak of Galactic Intelligence stepped forward, his six-legged form moving with practiced precision to the central podium. Honorable delegates, allow me to present the compiled data on human military capabilities and their impact on galactic security. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing detailed analysis reports from across known space. Over the past 18 months, we've documented a complete collapse in mercenary operations targeting human installations. This isn't due to increased security or advanced technology. Then what is the cause? Demanded Counselor Nethys, her amphibian features glistening under the chamber lights. Fear, Zyrak replied simply. Professional warriors across the galaxy have reached the same conclusion independently: humans represent a form of warfare that cannot be countered through conventional means. The psychological profile. The psychological analysis is particularly disturbing, Zyrak continued, bringing up brain scans and behavioral charts. Humans display what our experts call combat euphoria. They genuinely enjoy dangerous situations and actively seek out challenges that other species would avoid. Senator Kravex of the Draconian Hegemony, his scaled hide shifting to a darker shade, interjected, surely this is just primitive aggression? Many young species go through warlike phases. No, Senator, Zyrak's response was firm. This is different. Humans have weaponized their entertainment industry. Their soldiers don't just train for war, they consume media about warfare for pleasure. They've blurred the line between professional combat and recreational activity. The displays showed footage of human soldiers during training exercises, laughing and competing with each other while practicing techniques that would devastate most galactic armies. The strategic implications. High Chancellor Vorthak's form shifted to a deeper blue, indicating serious concern. Director Zyrak, what are your recommendations regarding classification? This is where we face a dilemma, Zyrak admitted. Traditional threat classifications don't apply to humans. They're not expansionist in the conventional sense. They're not seeking to conquer territory or resources. They're simply existing, and their existence has changed the fundamental nature of galactic warfare. Ambassador Quillix stood again, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. They've created a psychological deterrent without even trying. My own military advisors have recommended against any operations in human space, not because of their defenses, but because of their unpredictability. The cultural analysis. Dr. Vexena, the Federation's leading xenosociologist, approached the podium with her characteristic tentacle-shuffling gait. Esteemed delegates, I've spent decades studying human culture, and I must share my findings. Humans don't separate their military from their entertainment industry. They create fictional scenarios of warfare and then try to make them real. They've developed weapons and tactics based on what they call science fiction, theoretical concepts that they've made functional. The chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief. Furthermore, Dr. Vexena continued, they name their military units after mythological creatures, their weapons after concepts of destruction, and their operations after aggressive metaphors. This isn't psychological warfare, this is how they naturally think. The economic impact. Trade Representative Norzak presented the economic data with obvious distress. The human factor has completely destabilized the mercenary market. Contracts that should cost standard rates are now offering premium payments with no takers. The ripple effects are spreading. Insurance companies are refusing to cover operations in human space. Entire sectors of the professional warfare industry are considering career changes. Senator Kravex's scales had now shifted to a worried yellow. Are you suggesting that one species has accidentally undermined galactic military commerce? That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Norzak replied. And they don't even know they're doing it. The philosophical debate. Ambassador Thixis of the Ethereal Collective, her energy form pulsing with intellectual curiosity, raised a crucial point. Perhaps we're approaching this incorrectly. Instead of viewing humans as a threat, should we consider them as a solution? Explain, Vorthak requested. For millennia, we've dealt with rogue species, pirate fleets, and aggressive empires through military force. But humans have achieved something we never could, they've made warfare itself seem unappealing to professional soldiers. They've created peace through reputation alone. This sparked intense debate among the delegates. Some argued that humanity represented a dangerous unknown, while others suggested they might be the key to galactic stability. The testing proposal. General Korath of the Valdorian War Council, his massive frame dominating his section of the chamber, made a controversial suggestion. We're debating theoretical scenarios. I propose we arrange a controlled test. The chamber fell silent. A small engagement, Korath continued, under controlled conditions. We observe human combat capabilities firsthand and make our classifications based on evidence rather than speculation. Absolutely not, Dr. Vexena interjected immediately. General, you're suggesting we deliberately provoke a species that has never shown aggressive intentions toward the Federation. That's not just dangerous, it's morally questionable. The compromise decision. After hours of debate, High Chancellor Vorthak called for order. The Council must reach a decision. We have three options: classify humans as a galactic threat, attempt to integrate them into our military framework, or maintain current observation protocols. The vote was closer than expected. In the end, the Council chose a fourth option proposed by Ambassador Thixis: establish formal diplomatic contact with the intention of understanding human military philosophy. We will approach them not as a threat to be neutralized, but as a phenomenon to be understood, Vorthak announced. Their methods may be unconventional, but their results speak for themselves. As the session ended, delegates dispersed with more questions than answers. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had become legendary without trying, feared without aggression, and respected without conquest. The irony was not lost on the more philosophical delegates. In a galaxy where warfare was a profession, humans had made it an art form. In a universe where military might was measured in technology and numbers, humans had redefined power as creativity and adaptability. The debate would continue in smaller committees and private discussions, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never view warfare the same way again. The field test. The unwelcome assignment. Colonel James Reaper checked his tactical display one final time as the stealth transport approached the contested mining colony of Zirion 7. His weathered face, marked by years of special operations, showed no emotion as he reviewed the mission parameters. Remind me again why we're doing this? Sergeant Major Franklin Knox asked, adjusting his powered armor's weapon systems. The colony's already been evacuated. Because some alien council wants to observe human combat capabilities under controlled conditions, Reaper replied, his voice carrying the flat tone of someone who'd seen too many political decisions disguised as military operations. Apparently, we've become a curiosity. The transport bay held 12 of Earth's most elite soldiers, each one handpicked for this demonstration mission. They didn't know they were being watched by representatives from 47 alien species, hidden in sensor-shielded observation posts around the colony. The opposition. The enemy forces consisted of hired mercenaries from various species, volunteers who had been assured this was a simple demonstration against primitive human tactics. They outnumbered the human team 3-1 and had superior technology, including energy shields and plasma weapons. Commander Zethrak, a veteran Thrakkery warrior with decades of combat experience, coordinated the defense from the colony's central command post. Remember, he told his mixed mercenary unit, these are the humans everyone fears. Show them they're facing real warriors, not the cowards who refused these contracts. His confidence was shared by his team. They had prepared fortified positions, overlapping fields of fire, and state-of-the-art detection equipment. Against 12 humans with conventional weapons, it should have been a simple victory. The insertion. Colonel Reaper's team inserted at dawn, using a combination of orbital drop pods and stealth gliders. The alien observers expected a conventional assault, frontal attack, overwhelming firepower, standard military doctrine. Instead, they watched in confusion as the humans seemed to disappear entirely. Where did they go? Asked Ambassador Quillix, monitoring the observation feeds. The sensors show they landed, but now there's nothing. Dr. Vexena, studying the human team's movements, pointed to her display. They're not hiding from the sensors. They're using them. Watch this. The humans had split into 3 groups, each moving through the colony using routes that exploited blind spots in the mercenary sensor grid. But they weren't just avoiding detection, they were actively manipulating it. The psychological warfare. Sergeant Major Knox's team reached the colony's communication array first. Instead of destroying it, they did something unexpected, they started broadcasting. Good morning, Zirian, 7 defenders, Knox's voice echoed through the colony's speakers. This is Sergeant Major Knox of the Earth Special Forces. We're here for a friendly demonstration. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. The mercenaries were baffled. This wasn't standard military protocol for any species they knew. Also, Knox continued, we've taken the liberty of ordering pizza for after the exercise. Hope you guys like pepperoni. Commander Zethrak's mandibles clicked in confusion. Pizza? What's pizza? The improvised tactics. What happened next defied every military doctrine the alien observers had studied. Instead of a coordinated assault, the humans began what could only be described as elaborate pranks. Lieutenant Rosa Martinez's team reached the colony's main power grid. Instead of shutting it down, they reprogrammed it to flicker the lights in a pattern that spelled out, hello, in Morse code. They're treating this like a game, observed Senator Kravex, his scales shifting to a confused orange color. No, Dr. Vexena corrected, they're treating it like entertainment. There's a difference. The creative solutions. The demonstration was supposed to last 6 hours. Colonel Reaper's team completed their objectives in 43 minutes. They didn't do this through superior firepower or advanced technology. They did it through methods that the mercenaries, and the alien observers, had never encountered before. When faced with a heavily fortified position, instead of assaulting it directly, they convinced the defenders to surrender by playing music so loudly that the mercenaries couldn't coordinate their defense. When confronted with energy shields that deflected their weapons, they didn't develop countermeasures, they convinced the shield operators to turn them off by sending them increasingly absurd surrender demands through the communication system. We demand you surrender immediately, Staff Sergeant Davis transmitted, or we'll be forced to deploy our secret weapon, interpretive dance. The decisive moment. The turning point came when Commander Zethrak decided to lead a counterattack personally. He expected to face soldiers using conventional tactics. Instead, he found himself in a situation that defied all his training. Colonel Reaper's team had turned the colony's industrial equipment into an elaborate obstacle course. The mercenaries found themselves navigating through conveyor belts, steam vents, and automated systems that had been reprogrammed to create a maze. "This is not warfare," Zethrak muttered into his communicator. "This is some kind of entertainment scenario." "That's exactly what it is," came Colonel Reaper's reply through the comm system. "And you're the guest stars." The unexpected victory. The exercise ended when the mercenaries found themselves surrounded, not by superior firepower, but by a combination of misdirection, improvised barriers, and what could only be described as battlefield comedy. The humans had used the colony's own systems against the defenders, turning security doors into traps, environmental controls into diversions, and communication systems into psychological warfare tools. Most importantly, they had done all of this while maintaining constant communication with each other, filled with jokes, commentary, and what sounded like genuine enjoyment of the challenge. The alien reaction. In the observation posts, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. They had witnessed something that challenged every assumption they held about warfare. "They didn't just win," Ambassador Quillix observed, his compound eyes reflecting the displays. "They turned the entire engagement into a form of entertainment. And they enjoyed it," added Dr. Vexena. "Did you hear them? They were laughing. During combat, they were actually laughing." General Korath, who had proposed the test, stared at the tactical displays showing the final positions. They achieved complete victory without firing a single shot in anger. They disabled a superior force through creativity. The lesson learned. As the human team regrouped for extraction, Colonel Reaper addressed his soldiers with the casual tone of someone discussing a training exercise. "Good work, everyone. Clean execution, minimal collateral damage, and we finished early. Knox, did you actually order pizza?" "Of course I did, sir," Knox replied with a grin. "The local aliens have never tried Earth food. Seemed like a good diplomatic opportunity." The alien observers realized they had witnessed something unprecedented. The humans hadn't just demonstrated their combat capabilities, they had shown that their approach to warfare was fundamentally different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. They treated impossible odds as entertainment, used humor as a weapon, and turned every challenge into an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to genuinely enjoy the experience. The new understanding. As the observation teams prepared their reports, one thing became clear: the humans weren't just skilled warriors. They were something entirely new, a species that had turned warfare into an art form, where victory came not from superior technology or numbers, but from the ability to think in ways that no enemy could predict or counter. The galaxy had learned an important lesson that day. The humans weren't dangerous because they were aggressive or technologically advanced. They were dangerous because they were impossible to prepare for, impossible to predict, and worst of all, they seemed to find the whole experience amusing. The demonstration had ended, but the real impact was just beginning. Word of what had happened at Zirion 7 would spread through the galactic military networks, cementing humanity's reputation as the galaxy's most unpredictable warriors. And somewhere in the colony, 12 human soldiers were sharing pizza with confused alien mercenaries, turning what should have been a tense military demonstration into an impromptu cultural exchange.